All right. So welcome everybody. We're very excited to have Robert Katende here from SOM Chess Academy in Uganda. So Robert, I'd love for you to start out and tell us kind of a little bit about your history and how you started the Chess Academy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michelle, and good morning to everyone, depending on your time zone. How much time do we have, Michelle, for this particular chat?
I think we have like an hour, if that,
Okay.
lasts.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, surely. I just needed to know that I plan well on what I need to share. Yeah, my name is Robert Katende, commonly known as Coach Robert. Basically, I say I started the community development work way back. I'm an engineer by training, but a social worker by occupation. So I've been doing that right from my college. I engaged into social work. It was a temporary issue I dived in with hopes that maybe I'll be able to go into my profession. But I got to be groomed in there depending on the situation, the way it was. Basically, what I did was to get a chessboard and stormed the slums to see how I could engage the children who were wandering within the slums and turning into different vices. So I started with just one chessboard, which I had right from college. And then almost 20 kids all gathered around the chessboard. I didn't even have a table, so we just put it on the floor, just on the ground. So they all didn't know what it was, but they saw a board with some nice looking crazy pieces, which they didn't even understand. So they all were just curious, and that's how they dived in. And that was in 2000 and late 2003. So it really kept on evolving, and with just trying to push way forward, it led to the formation of SOM Chess Academy, which has turned out to be a very impactful program, basically with the mission of restoring hope and transforming lives through chess, one move at a time. That is our, we call it our motto, that transforming lives through chess, one move at a time. Yeah, but I would love also to share my screen just to show you what exactly we do when we get to engage in chess. I don't know whether you can all see my screen. This is our theory of change. So our theory of change is that we engage basically when we get people in the current situation. In fact, let me first, I think, share this. I'll stop sharing that, then I'll share this first. So what we do is when we get the community, we use chess. Chess is more like our platform to engage one-on-one, and then we affect the reasoning, the mindset, and the way these children see things, and then develop their inner ability to believe in themselves, that they can co-create situations, that they can be initiators, that they can pioneer the change that they need to see. So what we do basically,
oh, you froze, Robert. You froze on us. Maybe if you stop.
We focus on the mental faculty because they have nothing to either pioneer or use the word initiation, because they need to start it. It's not anywhere. You find that in their family. So they are the ones to actually break that vicious cycle. So that's why we keep on encouraging them to see that they can focus on themselves as the change makers. So when what we do is using the chess, we do a lot. We even end up providing the education after preparing them for close to 2 years, because pursuing education is also another commitment. Then we get them platforms to engage in tournaments, both national, but starting with our local tournaments within the slums. Then they keep on advancing until they come to the national competitions and even international competitions. So we also do welfare and livelihood, because we are approaching everything holistically. how do they live, where do they stay, and it's more like a mentorship program. We do the psychosocial support because some of them have a lot of other challenges right from their homesteads. Many of them are orphans, others are staying with the guardians. Some are their fathers because it is the situation of survival in the slums. So basically, we try to do a holistic program whereby they get to see SOM Chess Academy as a family as a whole. And then we end up providing or producing professionals who have a servanthood heart and they are ready to actually the families they come from as well as the community. What exactly our graphical presentation is more like that. And then our theory of change is what I would like to share next. What exactly happens when a child gets into our programs. So we employ what we call levels of urban poverty, high levels of illiteracy, and then so many other vices, drugs, and a lot of other things which go on in the slums. Try to restore hope and try to transform lives using chess as a platform that we integrate whatever I want to teach from a chess perspective, and having taught them how to play chess in most cases, it becomes very easy for them to actually life as a whole. Not now, take development as our strategy, improving public health because of the condition they stay in and very, very unfavorable. Then we have also partnerships and collaboration because we can't do this alone. That is what they basically get to do with us as we continue to advance, because we keep on scaling the program to other slums. Right now, we are in Kampala and we work in 7 slums within the city. We have programs in the south, just that because of COVID, things came to a standstill. Our action, basically, we use chess training, then we do life coaching. Of course, sponsorship comes in, and we couldn't even be able to do sponsorship, but as I will share later on, it's because of entities, more especially Go Campaign. And actually, Go Campaign has been the first organization to come to support us as an organization. Otherwise, before that, it was like individuals, well-wishers coming in once in a while, depending on how they get to visit the program. So we do community health, and then we do technical and financial capacity strengthening, because some of these learners whom we've been with, you can imagine our first child who enrolled in school, it was in 2006, and right now he's a doctor. Actually, next week, I'll be sharing on our Facebook page. He's now one of the people who are helping people with COVID. It's quite amazing, but way back, he was hopeless, staying in the slums, called Dr. Samuel. And he had to start right from primary level. He went through senior one, what we can call maybe junior high. Then he went all through to college through the support of SOM Chess Academy. So the impact is basically professional and responsible citizens, as I've just shared. Then we have also social economic change, because now I very much believe Samuel, not only the community is proud of him, but his family first, the mother, because it comes back to that we are enabling the potential in life. So basically, that is SOM Chess Academy. That's what we do. Our program is really so big now that it had grown in 2019 before we got to be hit in 2020 by COVID. We were working in 5 districts in Uganda. So we had started programs in northern Uganda, which actually started way back. We have where we had started in Budaka and in Jinja, more like our headquarters where we base. But we have also programs going on there. which we initiated almost close to 7 years now. We're back in the Mukuru slums. And by the time we were hit with COVID, we had just launched a program in Rwanda. Of course, we were partnering with some of the people who have believed in our methodology of community development work and empowering kids through this strategy. So they would invite us and we go as facilitators in these entities. Yeah, and maybe something else I can talk about is how the impact of Go Campaign. Go Campaign, as I want to first and foremost appreciate Scott. Thank you very much. I'll never forget the day we first met. And I remember you came with Denny, and it's quite amazing. I remember when we were taking photos from a platform which I had built to try to harvest water for the academy center. And I remember you were taking photos from the platform, and then you were asking me, what is this for? And I told them, no, this is a platform. I just built it hoping we'll get a water tank that will harvest the rainwater. He said, really, where is the tank now? And I told him, I said, no, we'll get the water tank. And right now we are able to survive, and we are able to harvest 10,000 liters of water whenever it rains. And then that serves the entire academy. And it's the only location within the entire slum that uses toilet. Otherwise, the rest are using pit latrines, because we have the water, and as all the learners who come to the center learn how to use toilets, because when they go to tournaments in hotels, in other places, it's not something which they are not familiar with. So which has really helped a lot in learning. Besides that, that was more like the genesis of this journey. And after that, then there are several other missions that has come on to support challenging for us. They supported some kids to be able to go back to school. Then the feeding program, especially last year when we were in the total lockdown, and we had to support these families with some food support because it was very challenging. Right now we are still, then even the staff support, because there is one moment where things had come to a dead end and we could not even support our instructors to actually be maintained. And it is Go Campaign that came on board to rescue us from that. And we also had to scale our computer program. It's quite unfortunate that this particular month, we have gone back into total lockdown. Otherwise, last month, we had even planned to get, we had already launched our chess program and we had put everything in place. We had gotten 40 computers and we had scaled the program from the Katwe Center to the Chihuahua Center, where we had a bigger space and we had created a very good computer laboratory. But we have not yet used it because on the 6th of this month, that's when the president closed all the schools and with immediate effect. I remember it was a Sunday and he said tomorrow by 8:30 all schools should be closed. So everyone had to find a way to get off school. Then 11 days later, we went to total lockdown, where they said now no one should move from one district to another district. No private vehicles allowed unless you have a permit or a license to move, unless you are an essential worker. So there are so many issues and you are not, so there is now total lockdown, which was declared on 18th, which is last week. And now it's very hard to move, even providing food to the centers. It is very, very tricky. It's only the cargo trucks that are allowed to move from one point to another point because they know they need to deliver food to people. Otherwise, no private vehicle, no motorcycle is allowed to move. And even there is curfew by 5 p.m., no motorcycle should be on the road apart from only trucks or cargo vehicles, which are allowed to work 24/7 because they know they're delivering food. Then ambulances and maybe people who are like nurses and doctors and you need to identify yourself from every checkpoint, and there are checkpoints almost everywhere because the districts are so many and they were so much divided up, and they have deployed a lot of military police to keep on checking so that no people could violate the directives from the president. That is the current situation. I don't know whether there is anything else I can add on, but I'll be ready to answer any
Robert,
questions.
So what is the state of COVID right now in terms of I guess you're being hit by a new wave? Is that what's happening? And
Yep.
you don't have the vaccine there, obviously. I don't think the vaccine has reached Uganda, and so what's happening?
Yes, we actually received the vaccine. We had a donation the government received. I think they received close to, I think it was 20,000 doses, but they had to consider the essential workers first and the front line workers. So by the time they opened it up to the rest of the people, it was actually over. I was so lucky that I managed to get one, at least the first dose. Yeah, and we were still encouraging people to go and get a shot, but somehow we were told that it is over. And then we were hit by during that same process, we were hit by the second wave, and it came so heavy. Actually, the government, because of low information flow, it took them long to realize it, because the schools had been opened, but the schools were keeping silent because trying to fight the infection on their own. It was actually stressful. So that's why it was that immediate closure of all the schools. And as I talk right now, we have so many deaths going on. All the facilities for medical have heavily been used up. Actually, they are encouraging people now to do self-medication because they have nowhere to go. And many of them are actually dying. Very many people are dying right now. I have personally lost people I know, close to 5 of them. And there are many others who are still hospitalized. And they're trying to use some local herbs like steaming, like you get some local herbs and then you boil and try to steam because they cannot afford the medicine. And when you go to some of the private medical centers, I think they have had from close to, I think, $2,000. Those either government officials or those who can, business people who can afford that. So the rest of the people are simply they die from their homes. So it is really so tough that what the government has done is to try to impose more and deploy more police. So no one is allowed to move without a mask. So everyone has to put on a mask, and you have to, even all the shops have been closed, the markets have been closed, the arcades have been closed. So everything is closed right now, and it's not easy. Like if I move without a mask, I can't survive. They will just reprimand you. But even they have reprimanded several people that the prisons are also full. So the government said, now we are going to fine you. The moment we get you, you'll have to pay. And still those who cannot pay, they end up being taken. But you find that everything is really now stretched beyond what we could imagine. So we are encouraging people to try to observe the standard operating procedures, to social distance, to use masks, instead also use soap, because some of them can't afford sanitizers, especially in the slums where we serve. So we have done that. We are making liquid soap at the academy. So I have told the instructors to make more liquid soap. Then it can be mixed in water and then put in a wash can, so that people would use water within already, which has some soap with it. And I remember last year we were able to give some bars of soap because people are told to wash hands, but some of them don't have even the clean water to wash the hands. So it becomes very complicated, very, very complicated. And due to lack of information flow, many of the people actually are dying without anyone realizing, well, the public knowing. It's only the outstanding figures who you will hear on the news. So and so is dead, so and so is dead. Some of them are politicians, others are big business people, like the famous people in the country. If they die, those ones can be actually communicate, and so is no more, so and so is still in bed. Even right now where I am, even today they were burying one of the strong leaders here, was a Muslim, but still he also succumbed to COVID.
That's terrible. I'm sorry that you're going through that right now. I think for people who are on the call, maybe who don't know what Katwe is like, I don't know if all of you have seen the movie Queen of Katwe about Robert and the SOM Chess Academy. It gives you a sort of a sense of the location. But if you haven't seen it, Robert, maybe you could tell people, just explain sort of conditions in the slum, because when you mentioned social distancing, I can't imagine how you can social distance in Katwe. So maybe you could just paint a picture for everybody here. And you might also turn off your video, because sometimes you're freezing. And so maybe without the video, we won't have that issue. I don't know.
Yeah, right, Scott, you're very right. In fact, when they put social distancing in Katwe, it doesn't make sense at all, because people are so congested to each other because the slum dwelling. I don't know how I would really describe it, but I know maybe it is a ghetto. I think that would be the common word. But this, in fact, if I can say, the best way to describe it, that the ghettos in the US, if any of you has been in the ghettos in the US, they are a paradise to here if you compare with what we have here. So people don't have running water, people don't have pit latrines, people sleep on trenches, on top of trenches, and when it rains, it can flood the entire area and it goes up to almost window level. So people have either to run uphill, or if not, climb up on either tables, on wardrobes, so that the water level don't reach them. So it can rain and then it floods the entire area. They have to wait for the water outside to drain. Then they can scoop the water from their rooms. This has been the phenomenon for years, but this is where people can afford to start life from, because in most cases, if you have any option, no one can really dare stay in the slums, but in most cases, they have no chance. If it is a dry season, it's somehow okay, because you know, okay, the smell will be there, the trenches will be there, the dirt will be there, but when it rains, it is really very, very hard. Many of them contract diseases. Some of the kids actually end up dying because they drown, because when it rains, you cannot be able even to trace where the walkway is and where the trench is, and that's how most of them end up dying and drowning.
Unbelievable. It's when I hear and I'm reminded of the conditions there, I just think how important it is, the work that you're doing, because you're really giving the kids opportunities to escape from that life and to find something beyond that, which they would otherwise never have the chance to have.
Yeah, this is, it has turned out to be a beacon of hope, and I'm so grateful for the support rendered to us. It is totally a beacon of hope. And right now, we have close to 17 success stories that we can share of professionals who have emerged out of this hopeless situation. And then I can also celebrate 6 families that have actually broken out of the slum vicious cycle of poverty. And there are 6 simply because 4 of them, their kids got a chance to go through the auditions when I was preparing them for the Queen of Katwe shooting, the movie, and their kids were able to participate. And each of them was able to raise close to $1,500 from their remuneration as not main characters, but just being part of the scenes for chess, because they were really chess players. And what I did was to support these families so that they can buy a plot of land outside the slums And then we were able to put at least 2 rooms for each of them. So the COVID situation didn't affect them. So I consider those also part of the success stories because they have been able to break out of the vicious cycle. But this is totally a beacon of hope because most of the kids who have been or who are part of the program never ever had any way out. That they had nothing to think about on how to break it through, because you look at their grandparents, you look at their parents, looking at them and even comparing them. Some of you, if I don't know that you've read the Queen of Katwe is a movie, but there is also a book which came before the movie. If you get a chance to read that, you will contrast when you see this young girl, Fiona, and her elder sister who was not part of the program. There is a big contrast. And then you can also read A Night Without a Castle. This is the book I released I wrote in 2019. It actually gives the genesis before the Queen of Katwe and then what happened after the Queen of Katwe movie.
I recommend both those books and the movie if anyone hasn't seen it.
I was unmuting myself and I actually unrecorded. Well, I wanted to, since we have people here, I know you probably have questions for Robert. So just open it up to everybody who joined us today to be able to ask your questions. And so anybody that has a question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
I can start. This is Alex. Hi, Robert. Nice to meet you, and thank you for the wonderful update. And so sorry to hear about all the suffering that's going on right now with the pandemic. One question I had was, how many children did you have in the program before the pandemic started? Like you had mentioned, you were in so many different districts. How many children in total were involved in the program?
Yeah, in total, if we combine all the centers, we had 1,846.
Wow, that's amazing. That's truly amazing.
That's if we combine all the centers from within Uganda alone, that is excluding Kenya and Rwanda, where we had launched other programs. But these were the kids who are currently part of the program, because there are others who have graduated who are now in the field working.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you on that, because you're giving them something that they otherwise, they're basically coming from nothing, and you're giving them something to participate in, and using, you know, a fun game like chess to engage them is a brilliant idea. You know, right now, you know, given the current restrictions you mentioned with COVID, are you still able to interact with these children at the academy to some degree, or is it pretty limited at this point?
Yeah, at the moment, it's very, very tricky. Actually, what I did was to reach out to one of my friends who had a truck, because the only vehicle which is allowed to maneuver through is the truck. And due to political problems, I'll call them, the government kept on chopping, or if not dividing, all the districts. By the time the president became a president, there were only 35 districts in Uganda. As I speak right now, there are 142. And that means there were simply the 35 that were there to create more constituencies, to create more political support, more MPs. So it was a political move interconnected, but populated. That is Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukola. Some of the centers are already maneuvering from one district to another district. You need a special permit to do that. Unless you have a truck vehicle, then you can be able to manage. But because we needed to deliver food, and even right now I'm working on a campaign to see how we can support these kids from their locked out places, because they are in their families, but the parents can't afford it. They used to come to the Center for Feeding Program. but we closed the center. So now we have only instructors and there are only 5 at the center. So we want now to collaborate with them to see here during the total lockdown. But what will get someone who has a truck and then be able to move freely without any question. Even delivering of food, it is using the truck.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Robert? Go ahead.
I was just wondering, I know you said that there weren't very many vaccines out, but I was wondering if, even if you are like fully vaccinated, do you have to still wear a mask out?
Did you hear the question, Robert? So the question was, if you're fully vaccinated, do you still need to wear a mask in Kampala?
Yes, actually, we've had, and I personally had to engage with the doctors, and they said that even when you have received both shots, you still have to keep all the SOPs. And by the way, still you are not immune to COVID. But I think the only advantage would be that when it gets you, you won't be severely affected as those who are not immunized or vaccinated. But otherwise, it's not a guarantee that you have been vaccinated, therefore you are free to just move free without a mask. No, everyone, it's a must. In fact, we have had several cases of those who have even succumbed to COVID when they had already received the first shot.
How many people live in Katwe, Robert?
In Katwe as a slum area, we have close to 8,000 people, but it's the biggest slum area. Not so big in terms of, it's also bigger compared to other slums in terms of square miles, but it is densely populated. As you saw when you visited, almost you find one homestead having close to 8 people on average. And then they are living in a room which is maybe 10 by 10 feet.
Yeah, so very tight quarters.
Robert, I just want to say thank you so much for telling us what's going on. And I wanted to ask you just in general, obviously right now with the pandemic, that's your biggest obstacle. But without the pandemic, when things are running normal, what's your biggest obstacle to achieving your goal?
Yeah, when things were very normal and everything was running, actually, first and foremost, the biggest obstacle was to manage the programs because you find we didn't have a criteria, and wherever we would launch a center, children would come in because it's a free program. People don't pay to come and kids don't come. So you find that you would always be stormed and to be an influx to every center. And then you find that it strained so much our human resource, and we couldn't be able to afford to hire skilled labor to manage that. So the programming costs have always been a very big challenge, how to manage situations, the feeding program, maintaining it, maintaining the education program, and especially without a guarantee that you have to plan, whereby either you have a funding, you are certain that next year we expect this amount. It's not there. Go Campaign actually has been so much. I don't know how they have always been guided, but they have always come in to really rescue us on programs that were very much badly off. And then they would say, okay, we'll be able to support this particular program. And but there's no consistency in terms of support. So sometimes it's hard for you to plan because even when you draw a budget, you don't know what to expect. So that has always been very, very challenging.
Thank you.
Maybe you can share, you said you have these, success stories that, kids whose lives you've changed through your work. Maybe you can share, you know, one story in particular of a child. I know we all know Fiona, or for those people who've seen the movie, her story, but I'm sure there's a lot of other kids that you've worked with that whose lives you've changed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michelle. Actually, I would definitely start with Fiona, who actually some of the people can be easily connected because of the movie. And if you can recall in the movie, there is also a young man called Benjamin, the tiny boy who was in playing chess. These two, last May, that is last month, they were able to graduate from college from Northwest University in Kirkland. And to me, that's something which is unbelievable and something which I could never have imagined whatsoever. To see that we got a tuition scholarship. Of course, I had to battle with boarding and other requirements, but it was such a tremendous joy to see them graduate from college last month. And as I speak right now, Fiona has gotten placement in Microsoft. That's where she's now working. And then Benjamin is enrolling for a master's program because Benjamin, Fiona did business administration and Benjamin did pre-med. And through pre-med, he is now enrolling to Duke University. We have received a tuition scholarship for Duke University. Now I want to see if we could be able to manage other requirements and boarding so that he can come out with an undergraduate program, which he has to pursue for 2 years from there. And he wants to actually come back and set up a hospital here in Uganda. So that is to me very, very amazing. But back here, we have so many successful stories. Maybe I can share about the differently abled chess program, which I launched almost 7 years back. This is the program I started just for the children with disabilities. Here in Uganda, or I would say in Africa in general, that disability is really taken as a curse. So even many families actually break out, and in most cases, most children who are born with disabilities are either killed or they are abandoned until they die, or if not, they are thrown into other agencies that can support. So when I started this chess program, it kind of changed the way these kids were being looked at and how people really consider disability to be. Because, you know, a child who cannot even move a chess piece with the hands, and some of them could move the pieces with the mouth. But others could even simply look at the chessboard and have to work with an assistant because they simply tell you what to play for them and then you move the piece for them. So that it changed everyone's mindset that 3 years back, we were able to have the first, I think in Africa, disabled team. I call them the differently abled chess team because I don't want so much to attach the disability on it, just differently able, that they do the things we are able to do, but in a different pattern. Because if I can move with a piece with my hands, for him or her can move it with the mouth or with the feet. Still, we are moving the same thing, but in a different way. That's why I preferred the name differently abled. Now, these kids in 2017, they were able to fly out of Uganda to US to play in the World Olympiad for the disabled. That was something which was not expected by anyone, to an extent that the families that had abandoned these kids came back because they had now turned out to be something which we are proud of, which they never expected. In fact, when we flew back from US, we found them at the airport waiting to hear from them. And then reuniting these kids with their families, for me, that was really, it was really heart relieving. Like, you know, the mothers coming back, the relatives embracing them. Then they could not believe that they were watching their kids they had ever abandoned now on TV, on news, when they were being interviewed. So this changed the whole perception they had towards that. So we are still supporting these learners in that way. So we have that differently chess program, and it's actually playing in the national league, the top national league, and they have actually played for 2 consecutive years. 2020 where they were unable because of the pandemic, and 2021 still they were ready to play, but we have not started the league because of the lockdown now, as much as it was to start next month. So that is one of them. Then another one is I shared about the families that broke out of the vicious cycle of poverty in the slums. Then I can also share about the children that are now working as instructors. There are now 26 who are part of the staff. None of them is hired from outside. These are mentored and nurtured through the program. You find that the administrator, the accountant, the program manager, the communications director, these are all people who have been nurtured through the program, and they are now professionals in the different fields. You talked about Samuel, Dr. Samuel, who also started in the program. Actually, Dr. Samuel was part of the kids who played in the first tournament that is portrayed in the Disney movie when they went to a high school in Woodop for the first time. And remember when they had to sleep on the floor. So everything is really very, very amazing to see it happen. Right now, he's a doctor, and he has been so much serving in this COVID situation, which is quite amazing. We have other girls who have been able to break through the vicious cycle. You know, here a girl to make it to 18 without them getting straight is not easy. So we managed to do that through chess and allowing them to make personal decisions and also discernment on what is safe and what is not safe. So in a way, they were able to work through, and then giving them education. I think that has been paramount. So some of them are now working as teachers. I have one who has actually qualified as a chef. So they are in different fields. At first, I will also share personal, because at first I was a bit grieved in the early years. I was asking myself, as an engineer by training, how have I used my profession? And I really felt like condemned in a way. But in 2018, when I started seeing these graduations coming up, I really kind of got peace at heart, and I realized that out of my degree, I had been able to get many other degrees from different other fields. So I realized that my degree was not put to waste. Actually, perhaps I had to go through college so that I can learn how to direct others there.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's truly amazing, Robert, the work that you have done with these children. Is there any other questions that anybody has? I want to ask Robert while he's here. No? If not, then I think we'll just say thank you, Robert, for your time.
Sure.
Spending your evening or morning with us and for sharing your amazing work. I know the situation right now is really tough where you are, so we really appreciate you kind of sharing that and making us aware of what the current conditions are with COVID. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for this time as well. It's my honor, and I bring you greetings from all the instructors, from all the beneficiaries, and they are so grateful for the support. I know we are going through a very tough time now because it's anticipated that the lockdown might stretch to 6 months, because looking at the special permits that they are giving to essential workers, they are expired, they are valid for 6 months. So that's more like an indicator that possibly they might still keep on extending. Right now, they have given us 42 days of full total lockdown, and we have so far moved only 3 days. So we hope we'll be able to endure the situation.
We hope so too. I'll be thinking about you, and make sure you keep us updated on how things are going. We certainly would like to know how you're doing, and hope and pray that you get through this sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Lucy, Alex, Olivia, Amy. Thank you very much for the time, and Roran. And Michelle, thank you for setting up the Zoom. I'm so sorry the other time I couldn't make it because of this flux going on and people were dying, even are still continuing to die. So there is a lot of tension. And now you find that some of the people in the slums, they keep on calling you because they think you can help out in one way or the other. So you feel always overwhelmed in a way.
Well, know that you're not alone. We have a lot of friends with you, Robert, and
Thank you.
please continue to keep us updated.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it was great to see you, and thank you for your time. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.